there. Thank you so much for joining our Facebook Live. We have an incredible show for you this week. We're testing the limits of our technology. We have three guests. So this is just going to be a great show. We're going to talk about evictions and as they are associated with COVID-19. And we have attorneys Jenna Hudson, Paige Greenlee, and Tom DeFiore, DeFiore or DeFiore. Does that sound even better? There you go.
Italian pronunciation.
There you go. Even better. So welcome to you guys, and let me give some updates on COVID-19, and we'll get right back to you because I know you have a wealth of information. I know there are a lot of questions out there on this particular topic. So let me give you a case update. 37,668 total cases in Hillsborough County. These numbers are just unbelievable from where we started, including 554 deaths. I say every week, I don't know why the number 48 stands out in my mind, but I remember when I did the Facebook program with 48 deaths, and I thought that it could never climb from there. And now we have 554 deaths. And behind each one of those numbers is an individual that leaves behind their family, loved ones, neighbors. And so we got to do everything that we can, work hard every single day, do our part to keep those cases to a minimum, because there really is still so much that is unknown into who is affected and who isn't by COVID-19. Individuals that I know that have contracted COVID-19 and they never would have known they had it had they not had a test for some reason. And other individuals, literally, as we see in that number, it is a life-ending disease for them. And so we have to do all we can. And it's simple to do that by wearing a mask, staying 6 feet away from others, washing your hands, and getting tested. Very, very important. In the state of Florida, 633,442 total cases, 11,651 deaths. Hillsborough County, 282,141 people have been tested. And our positivity rate, if you follow charts, the information that's put out on a daily basis at tampagov.net, and then I know on the Hillsborough County's website as well. If you follow that, you can see that gradual decline from that spike when the bars were open. We still have the largest number of age group for infections is still that 25 to 34-year-old age range, but the other groups are catching up as well. So, or maybe I should say that particular age range is declining because our positivity rate is down to just a little over 6% right now. And that is something that is a very, very good sign because we were all the way up at 14% positivity. Of course, we have to take that with a grain of salt because the number of tests that we have given, the individuals that are showing up at the testing sites, that's continuing to decline as well. So go out and get tested if you feel that you may have COVID-19. So very, very important. We're doing better, and as a result, starting to relax some of the restrictions. The long-term care individuals are able to go in and visit, which is a wonderful thing. My mom will be very happy about that. But schools are open as well. And so we're keeping our eye on that, in close contact with Superintendent Davis, and they're keeping a close eye. We were out there on the opening day of school on Monday, and they're doing all that they can to make sure that they're safe. Our students are safe. So we are not out of the woods yet. So please, we're starting to see some of these large gatherings again. We had one this past Saturday night with a group of about 500 individuals that came together, even though they were outside where the cases of transmission are dramatically reduced. It still doesn't mean that COVID-19 cannot be contracted. So it's critically important that we follow and adhere to those simple steps of 6 foot distance, wearing your mask, washing your hands, and not gathering in crowds of 10 or more. Very, very important. We want you to go to our website, tampagov.net. Everything that you need to know about COVID is there, including our relief programs. Our One Tampa program information is on there about that. We just had the Board of County Commissioners today just approved providing CARES funding to the city of Tampa, to Plant City, and to Temple Terrace. And so that was a wonderful event. So we will be able to get some financial relief and get that out to our community as well, and also lift up local. We're still continuing along with that program to help our restaurants and our retail. So very important. This is storm season. So please, 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 I told everybody, as if COVID-19 wasn't enough, please don't send us a hurricane. So September, October are both very active months. Now is the time to prepare. Now is the time to make your plan and get necessary supplies, because this is predicted to be the worst hurricane season since 2005. So make sure that you're paying attention. Now, with the evictions, this is something that clearly we knew was going to be coming. And so we have worked internally. We have a task force here in the city we've put together, and then also reaching out to the county, because we know that they're working on this as well. We want to be as prepared as we can prior to a moratorium on evictions being lifted, because we know that that will be a tsunami. But also know that as we are providing mortgage and rent and utility relief, that is only basically a Band-Aid. We've got to help people get reemployed, because if we pay your mortgage for a few months and you still don't have a job, that's not going to help down the road. So we are also working with Career Source. John Flanagan is the outstanding leader of Career Source, and they're doing all they can to retrain individuals and to get them reemployed in other fields. So please, if you're out of a job, go to Career Source, their website, and see what's available there so that we can get you gainfully employed. That's very, very important. So let's get into our introductions and also our questions. So as I said, our guests today are attorneys Jenna Hudson, Paige Greenlee, and Tom DiFiore. Jenna Hudson received her bachelor's degree cum laude from Rollins College. That was our opponent when I went to University of Tampa 100 years ago. Beautiful college. And her law degree from Stetson University College of Law. Jenna is the pro bono manager for the Volunteer Lawyers Program. Awesome. Jenna served on the board of directors for the Hillsborough Association of Women Lawyers from 2007 to 2017, and in several leadership positions. She's currently co-chair of HAWL's Pro Bono Committee. Paige Greenlee is a commercial litigator with the law firm of Greenlee Law PLLC in Tampa, and has extensive experience representing clients in complex commercial litigation matters. Paige started at Greenlee Law in October of 2014 after spending the earlier part of her career at several large and medium-sized law firms, following her judicial clerkship immediately after graduation from law school. Paige currently serves on the Florida Bar Board of Governors, which is the governing body of the Florida Bar, and was recently elected to its executive committee. She has also held leadership positions in several local voluntary bar associations, including Hillsborough Association for Women Lawyers, and currently serves as the president of the Hillsborough County Bar Association. Wonderful group. Tom DiFiore manages the Housing and Consumer Unit at Bay Area Legal Services in Tampa. Worked with that group for years. Tom earned a bachelor's degree from Georgetown University before graduating from the National Law Center at George Washington University. He came to Bay Area Legal in 1990. Tom has led the Housing and Consumer Unit for over 20 years. The team's primary mission is preserving housing and maintaining income for our most needy citizens. So clearly, we have the best and the brightest here with us today to help us out on these housing questions. So, what do people facing eviction need to do to access your services? And Tom, I guess you could probably answer this with your experience.
Really, the main thing they need to do is to call us if they've been, served with an eviction, not getting repairs done from a landlord, or get any other sort of notice at all. Call our main number, and they'll get screened for eligibility and get, at a minimum, a telephone interview with an attorney, and hopefully under our new project with a pro bono attorney as well, to get advice about that. And Jenna, I believe you have that number. I don't have that off the top of my head.
Yeah, the legal aid line for Bay Area Legal Services is 1-800-625-2257, or they can apply online at bals.org.
Okay, talk about some of those eligibility requirements. Like one of the questions that many people have asked me, and I was actually with a group last night of individuals that are landlords, and so in those eligibility requirements, how do you determine if their issue is COVID related, or is that even a consideration?
In terms of eligibility, what I'm mainly speaking of is we have different funding sources. So we have
Yeah.
income guidelines that need to be met depending on the different funding source, typically between 125% and 200% of the federal poverty limit. So that's usually what we're speaking about there. In terms of whether COVID applies or not, pretty much any landlord tenant matter, we'll discuss with them if they're eligible, and then see if there is any particular defense to an eviction, or any, how COVID might, the protections of that might apply to those people. We'll take a look at that. But that's, when I was speaking of eligibility, I'm at the initial determination of whether we can even speak to you further about your case.
Okay. Now, have any of you been contacted by the county about the CARES funding and the process there for individuals that may be facing eviction?
We're keeping a good track on the rental assistance and what's
Okay.
available. I haven't heard specifically about that one, but it's very, very relevant though, especially with the new developments of yesterday with the Center for Disease Control's order, which is a big development. And one of the requirements of a tenant when if they want to assert their rights under that, is to show that they've made their best efforts to obtain all sorts of any type of government assistance out there. So it's very important that we update our rental assistance, get the tenants involved, and so they know where to go
Mm-hmm.
to get that assistance. Because if they're for some reason unable to or not qualified for it, that's going to be relevant to whether that eviction is going to be able to be halted all the way through December 31st, 2020 now under this new order.
Okay, why don't you just give a sort of an overview on the order from the CDC?
Uh, I'll try and keep it brief and not get too much into the weeds.
Too wonky.
It's essentially going to be effective Friday. It's the Center for Disease Control filed an order called a temporary halt in residential evictions to prevent further spread of COVID-19. What is dramatic about this is it's an order under federal law that basically applies for the entire country. And the way I'm reading it, and I spent about 2 or 3 hours this morning going over it, is that it essentially says if you as a tenant file this declaration, which is basically a statement that says certain things, and send it to your landlord, that should put a hold on any eviction until December 31st, 2020. What is in that declaration? Okay. There are about 5 or 6 elements. The main ones are you're unable to pay your rent due to an income loss, large medical bills, or a drop in income. Does not require a direct correlation to COVID-19, which the governor's order does.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be under a certain income, I believe 90,000 for individuals, 198,000 for joint couples. That should not be a problem for most of the people we deal with. You're likely to become homeless or forced to live in close quarters as a result if you were evicted, because obviously that's what's transmitting the virus most prevalently. I think they quote in the order 6 or 7 times more likely when you're in close quarters inside to transmit it. So if you're a family that's forced to move in with other members of your family or out of state, and so that's another thing that you have to attest to. The two big ones I think are you have to show best efforts to obtain government assistance, which is what we were speaking about earlier. And also you have to make best efforts to make timely payments, partial payments on your rent. So this is what this declaration says, fairly simple to fill it out, not requiring a notary, you just sign it and then deliver it to your landlord. But you need to be sure that all of those statements are truthful. And the way I'm reading it, that will put a hold on pretty much any eviction filed until December 31st. So it does apply in Florida, I think, because the governor's order is not as extensive in those protections. So there is an exception that says if your local orders are more extensive, then this doesn't apply. I don't think that happens here. And another big thing about it is the governor's order is only for non-payment of rent cases. This CDC order includes non-payment of rent cases, but it also includes where your lease expires.
Wow.
So if you have a month-to-month tenancy and your lease expires, typically the landlord would be able to remove you for that, but arguably it could apply even for those tenants. So that's a brief overview. I hope I didn't get too far in the weeds on that, but essentially the declaration will be on the CDC website. It's not there when I just checked, and we'll probably have it up on our website, and I'm sure it'll be available all over the place shortly. But
and no matter what happens right now with the governor's order, the federal would supersede the governor's.
I would say it would. What it says is if there's a local order that provides more protection for the public health, essentially, then the CDC order, then that local order would apply. But this CDC order, I think, clearly provides more protection than the governor's order, which runs out potentially in a month. It doesn't stop the filing of an eviction. It allows an eviction to go all the way to the point of a final action in the case. So I think this would supersede that. I would make that argument. Courts are going to make all sorts of rulings on this, and undoubtedly the CDC order will be challenged probably before the end of the week. Okay. I would imagine that there'd be some counter, because it is pretty out of the ordinary course of business from the usual ways that regulations are promulgated, right? There's no comment period. There was no, it's an emergency order. So it's really nothing that I've ever seen anything close to it. So we'll see what happens.
And it's very interesting too, the way that, different states, I heard yesterday a radio program that in Georgia, they can move ahead. The governor didn't put any moratorium on evictions. They can move ahead with evictions, but the court systems all decided not to proceed with the eviction. So they can be filed, but they're just basically being held in abeyance. And that's something too that has been happening with our city attorney, Gina Grimes, is working with a clerk of the court, and individuals are filing for evictions, but they're not being carried out. Some people see that as being very negative, but I think that will allow us as a group to prepare to assist individuals that may be the subject of eviction, and so that we don't have just a tsunami of all of these filings all at once and not have the assistance available for the community. So one of the things that I've been telling our audience, and now I'll find out if I'm right or wrong, encouraging everyone to have these conversations with their landlords, to let them know that, look, I lost my job and here are the circumstances, as opposed to, just sort of burying your head in the sand and not talking to your landlord, not communicating at all. That's something I heard last night in the conversations, is that many of the individuals just won't, answer any of the correspondence whatsoever. And so what's your suggestion as a group for individuals that have lost their jobs or for some reason can't pay their rent?
Anybody else like to jump in? I would just say definitely communication with your landlord is very, very important. Obviously, when we've been getting involved in cases, the first thing we do is reach out to the landlord.
Mhm.
Say, hey, is there any way we can work something out? Here's what we've got. Here's the potential. Can we come to some sort of, agreement about that? And I agree with you too, that, the additional time allows unemployment benefits to kick in. There's still lots of issues with that. It allows people to potentially, as people are getting reemployed, to get some income in, and that's part of the goal of, our project with the pro bono lawyers, as well as our individual lawyers at Bay Area, is to get lawyers experienced with negotiation involved to work on the side of tenants and, come to an agreement and some sort of, reasonable, agreement about it. And frankly, if they're looking at a December deadline, before they can proceed with an eviction, that frankly gives us more leverage,
Mhm.
to work out some sort of a settlement. So we're always looking first and foremost to do that and hopefully clear up the tenant's record and have them have a clear record behind them and come to a reasonable agreement about, and that involves communication, obviously.
Yeah, and there are also states that require legal representation for individuals that are facing eviction. And I heard that there was 80% of those individuals are evicted. And so you need, if possible, you need to get that legal representation. And then to look at it from the other side, this is this problem is affecting just about everyone in our community. It's not just the individuals who have lost their jobs and can't pay the rent or mortgage. You have to look on the side of the landlords as well.
Yes.
That may be their source of income. And it's not just one or two individuals who have lost their job. We're talking about widespread unemployment. And so, what answers can we get? What relief can we get that can help the individuals stay in their homes and at the same time help those landlords that this may be their only form of income as well. So are there any charges for the services that you provide?
No, our services are completely free. They just have to meet our income guidelines based on the grants that we have. And so as Tom referenced before, anybody can apply for the services, and we're trying to involve pro bono attorneys with this new project that we've developed. It's a statewide project. It's called FACE, and it's Florida Attorneys Counseling on Evictions. So typically the volunteer lawyers program of Bay Area Legal Services doesn't like refer evictions and those types of cases to our pro bono attorneys because they have short deadlines, turnaround times. And so we leave those to the expertise of Tom and his housing team and the other staff at Bay Area who do that type of work on a daily basis. But now with the anticipated flood of, evictions that we're anticipating, this statewide project was developed with the help of the Real Property, Probate, and Trust Law section of the Florida Bar and the Young Lawyers Division. And so what Tom and his team and my team, we've been working together to specifically have a suite of training materials to train pro bono attorneys how to do the intakes and assist with even simple forms, pro se forms, at the intake, so that it's real simple and easy for them. They get their training, they have all the materials available right at their hands, and then the assistance of a mentor from Tom's team, so that they don't feel, that they're in over their heads doing this kind of work they've never done before. So we're hoping that this will fill that demand and help with that overflow.
Excellent. How are you funded? How's Bay Area Legal funded?
So
go ahead.
Go ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
No, you please.
Our largest funding source is a federal funding source, the Legal Services Corporation. And then we have multiple other statewide, local funding sources. This particular project is being funded by, we just got a grant for, it's the Tampa Bay Resiliency Fund, and Pinellas Community Foundation is the fiscal agent. So that's a new grant we received, and it's actually a regional project, so we can assist. We have sub-grants with our collaborative partners, two other legal aids, community law program in St. Pete, and then also Legal Aid of Minnesota, which covers Manatee and Sarasota. So we're working on this regional project together to cover the area, of the whole region, and hoping that we can all collaborate, share best practices, and hopefully fill the need that we're in.
Well, big shout out to those groups for standing up. That really is wonderful. Okay, we already answered that. So what's the HCBA doing to prepare for the anticipated flood, bringing all of these individuals' evictions once the moratorium is lifted? As you said, you're bringing in attorneys from all over, getting them prepared. Do you have any type of training uh, for them, or their online forms that they follow? Like, how would you, if I was a young lawyer, which is very frightening, if I was a young lawyer and I said, hey, I want to, I did injury law and I want to assist you with this, where would that training come from?
Well, the Hillsborough County Bar Association is really, we're just doing the outreach here. These other folks
Okay.
are doing the heavy lifting, but we're reaching out to our membership to try to promote these projects. And then, as you said, there's going to be an issue for landlords as well as tenants, and the Bay Area Legal Services Project is not able to address that because of potential conflicts that exist between landlords and tenants. So we're hoping to be able to get a list of volunteer attorneys who can do pro bono work for landlords who meet the similar requirements to Bay Area Legal Services, and also to fill gaps that exist for people who can't afford to hire an attorney but also don't qualify for legal aid. So we can, hopefully provide some pro bono, or what we call low bono, reduced services to folks who just aren't able to hire a regular attorney. And we have a existing lawyer referral service that anyone can use if they don't qualify for legal aid. They get a 30-minute consult for $35 through the Hillsborough County Bar Association. And that number is 813-221-7780. And we do have attorneys who are qualified to handle evictions and foreclosures on both the landlord and tenant side. But we're just right now working and have been in communications with Gina Grimes and also Bay Area Legal Services about what we can do to help them prepare for that and to be a stopgap for what legal aid is not going to be able to assist with.
Excellent, excellent. And we appreciate that. How many attorneys do you have in the Hillsborough County Bar Association?
We have about 3,000 active. We have a lot of emeritus members and honorary members, including judges, but we have about 3,000 active members.
Great. That is wonderful. That is a wonderful, wonderful service. So let's see. So if they don't qualify for legal aid, then the resources available to them would be through Hillsborough County Bar Association. Anything else that you can think of?
No, I just would suggest that they reach out to us, and we're going to do our best, like I said, to provide pro bono or low bono to folks who that's appropriate for.
Excellent, excellent.
And those people also, Mayor, could go to our website or even Jacksonville Legal Aid's website, because there's a great tool, an eviction answer builder that is available and made available to whoever might need it. Don't have to be eligible or have income to do that, and it's proving to be a very effective and updated tool, updated constantly by them. And we use it as lawyers, frankly, sometimes when we need to get something done. So that's something very important to know. And I'm glad to hear that potentially there's some pro bono people representing landlords, because if you have two attorneys dealing on a case, a lot of times it can facilitate a settlement. One other thing I wanted to point out, which is we were sort of talking about when the tsunami starts or when the evictions start. They've already started in Hillsborough County, Pinellas, and Pasco, because the governor's order did not basically gave a go-ahead to filing evictions and taking them, to the point even of a final eviction, unless the tenant affirmatively did file papers with the court, which they're not really knowledgeable enough to navigate that system. So on average, when the governor's moratorium started, I think the numbers were somewhere in the range of 150 or so in Hillsborough County cases per month. In August, that jumped to about 500. So the evictions are being filed, they're moving along. So, that the rush has already started, and we're certainly seeing that with the calls and the volume that we've gotten in just the last month. So I think it's important to note that it already has begun, and it will, maybe with the CDC order, but again, that requires affirmative action by a tenant to assert your rights under that new order as well. So.
And to your point, a lot of tenants don't know that.
No.
And so a lot of times, even though it's not legal, I saw this over and over as a police officer, is that not knowing your rights, the landlord can tell you that you're being evicted, even if they're not following the process. So make sure that you're visiting those websites and that you know your rights. It's incredibly important. Now here comes a question, which I'm sure the answer is yes, but not recommended. Can individuals represent themselves in an eviction or foreclosure proceeding?
Yes, in Florida they can, but it's strongly recommended that they not do so, which is why we're trying to educate everybody on the resources that are available to them and make sure that we have the people lined up for, as Tom said, it's ongoing now, but when things really get to be dire.
Mm-hmm. That's why they have law school, right? I remember going to misdemeanor court as a young officer, and all the individuals that would decide to represent themselves, rarely did it turn out well. So make sure there's available assistance out there, free, pro bono, and low bono. Make sure that you're availing yourself to it. So what should someone try to do if they're contacted by a company who wants to help them with their foreclosure or eviction? Does this fall into the realm of too good to be true?
In my experience, yes. I brought up this topic because I have unfortunately had a number of clients over the years come to me who have had somebody try to take advantage of their financial situation. And yes, it's too good to be true. You need to get an attorney. You should not rely on the assistance of someone who doesn't have a law license, who isn't licensed in this state. It's crucial that you follow all the advice that we're giving here today and reach out to someone. Don't let your neighbor who works at a law firm or anything like that. Some of these people are very well intended. Some of them are not so well intended, but regardless, you're going to end up with a bigger mess. And when you get to one of us who is willing to help you, it's a lot. There may be less that we can do for you, or it's certainly going to be a lot more difficult to get you out of the situation that you got yourself into.
Now, are there any kind of orchestrated scams that you can think of that, do you have groups or that are going out and trying to say they're assisting with a mortgage to some type of a nefarious end?
I haven't seen anything organized right now. I've run across it over the years, but I don't know if either Jenna or Tom has had any experience recently with any of that.
No, we haven't seen any, eviction representation scams at this point. Obviously, there's a history of foreclosure rescue scams that have been out there for years. But I think the key point is, if you've got somebody and their main interest appears to be them paying you money up front for their representation, and that seems to be the focus, that's a pretty clear sign that there's something not quite right.
There you go.
So especially for an eviction case, which typically, is not, wouldn't have a huge amount of a retainer or something like that. So, you'll almost never see private attorneys getting involved representing tenants anyway in private suits. And if you're a landlord, most of the time you need an attorney anyway. So that's part of your cost of doing business. But for tenants, be very wary of anybody that, wants you to sign on the dotted line and stroke them a check before they're going to help you.
And it's very easy to confirm whether you're an attorney or dealing with an attorney or an attorney in good standing by going to the Florida Bar's website. There's an easy attorney finder, and you can pull up the person's name and address and find out if they're an attorney in good standing with the bar. And if their name doesn't come up when you put it in there, then they're not an attorney with the Florida Bar.
There you go. That's a simple solution right there. So if we have any attorneys out there that are listening now that want to help in some way, how should they, who should they contact and how should they go about volunteering?
They can certainly contact Bay Area Legal Services. On our website, we have a page devoted to volunteering. So it's Bay Area, BALS.org/volunteer, and they can complete a pro bono registration and check off that they're interested in this project because our FACE project is listed on there. And certainly, Paige, I want to give you an opportunity to say if they want to volunteer with you all.
Sure. And of course, we don't want to be taking any resources away from Bay Area Legal Services. We want to help them just fill the gaps for things that they aren't able to do. So I'd encourage people who are interested in this to volunteer with Bay Area and also to reach out to the Hillsborough County Bar Association. Be on both of our lists. We'll be communicating with Bay Area Legal Services. So to the extent they can't help someone, they know who to get in touch with us. But you can go to our website, which is hillsborough.com, or contact me directly, paige@greenleylawtampa.com, and I will get you on a list and be happy to start connecting you with folks that Bay Area Legal Services isn't able to help. And we're going to continue to promote Bay Area Legal Services and the support that they're offering through this PACE program.
Excellent. All right. Well, is there anything in wrapping this up, anything that we haven't covered that you think we should have? Any advice or this has been very informative. All right. Thank you all. Go ahead, Tom.
No, I would just mention, we haven't mentioned the CARES Act protections. Just quickly on that. The CARES Act did expire, the protections against eviction, on July 24th, but there still is a 30-day notice requirement there. So if you're in a property that is federally backed or insured, you still have some protections there. So keep that in mind. And we didn't really touch on foreclosures, but quickly, again, if it's a FHA, VA, Fannie or Freddie mortgage, you basically can't start a foreclosure case or finalize a case until the end of the year. And you can ask for a forbearance because of financial hardship as a result of COVID, up to, I believe, 365 days, up to a year, at 180 days at a time. It's not forgiving the amount, but you can forbear it and then work out something with your mortgage company in that line if you're in a position where you're not able to pay your mortgage because of a COVID situation.
Mm-hmm. And that's, is that what you found in most cases with the foreclosures, is that the bank or lending institute is just allowing those payments to go on to the end of the life of the mortgage as opposed to moving ahead with foreclosure?
Generally, the forbearance is not a strict qualification to get it. As a matter of fact, all you have to do is basically say that you've been affected by COVID. You don't have to provide documentation. You get the forbearance. It's up to the individual lender how they want that paid back. Some will tack it on the end. Some will want a payment plan, but we haven't really gotten too much data on that, since obviously they haven't gone to repayment terms at this point for people that are in forbearance. And interestingly, those that are in forbearance are prohibited from evicting people. So if you rent a house and you have an FHA or a Fannie Freddie loan and you get a forbearance, you are prohibited from filing an eviction if you have a tenant in that property. So that's another protection for tenants as well.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all very much. It's been very informative. And for all of our listeners out there, if you are having issues with your mortgage, with your rent, please, please, please reach out and get assistance. First and foremost, have that conversation with your landlord and see what can be done, because there are many people that are in this situation right now. And then also, if you've lost your job, especially if you're in an industry that has been dramatically affected, hospitality, any of those types of industries where really those jobs don't appear to be coming back very quickly, and you want some type of retraining, get in touch with CareerSource as well. There's a lot of funding that's being put into retraining, There are a lot of jobs out in our community. We as a community have been affected by COVID-19, but not as dramatically as some other communities. And so we're going to have jobs out there. We're moving forward with a lot of development. And so we should be able to get back up on our feet, quicker than some other communities across the nation. And there are a lot of people that want to help you. So reach out for that assistance. You can go to tampagov.net, or you can go to Bay Area Legal Services, or you can reach out to the Hillsborough County Bar Association. So thank you all very, very much for your time today. I want to, for our listeners again, fill out your census. It is incredibly easy to do. It takes all of about 5 minutes, and it is critically important for funding. That's how we get our federal funding, is based on the population of our community. And it also determines our representation in Washington, D.C. Very, very important. There are 425 congressional representatives. It's capped at that. And those numbers are based on population. So some states may lose some representatives while others gain them. We are now the third largest state in the United States, and the city of Tampa is growing very, very rapidly. So make sure that your voice is counted in the census, and your voice is counted in voting as well. Very important. Text Tampa Ready to 888-777, or for messages in Spanish, Tampa Lista to 888-777, and we'll give you real-time information on any storms that are coming your way, real-time information on the coronavirus, anything that the community needs to know. We'll be getting it out there to you as quickly as we possibly can. We also have our recovery hotline is 1-833 Tampa Info. Sorry, 1-833 TPA Info. And there's information on social services and business relief there. So as we close out today, remember, stay safe, stay calm, stay kind, and above all else, stay home and wear your mask. Thank you all very, very much. Much appreciated.